Welcome back to the Real Greg Kelly Show. I'm Greg Kelly, and man, do I have a bombshell. I was examining my very small audience today as I was listening to Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell deliver the knockout blow to the globalist, to the Marxist, the radical left. And something dawned on me that I think is very, 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 very important. I had a conversation with a young lady this morning. She was an African American young lady. I won't mention her name. And it was clear to me that, she was greatly offended at the stance that I take with Donald Trump. But at that very moment, what occurred to me was that there are so many people who are clueless when they hear the term globalist. I mean, it's like a myth. It's like a term that they have no definition for, they have no connection to. More than likely, it's something they've never heard. And when, I mention left wing extremist, Marxist, communist groups, because the mainstream media has simply been selling this as some type of Donald Trump hoax, it dawned on me again that a lot of my people simply don't know. They're not misinformed, they're simply not informed on the agenda that did not just start in 2020. You can trace the Great Reset, the UN that was, previously known as the League of Nations. You can trace the false, I'm going to call it an ideology, because idealistically, what happens is when people try to indoctrinate you, or when they make that attempt and when they actually succeed at indoctrinating you, you have now fallen under the guise, or I'm going to call it the spell of an ideology. So all of these things, globalism, global warming, population control, the welfare system that the communist government that has been breeding and growing and expanding in America for over 100 years now, when they hear things like that, because they only pay attention to what's on the left, even though they have two eyes, it's kind of like, holding your hand over your right eye and only looking out of your left eye, and you're absolutely blinded to what's on the other side. I mean, in the documents of the Brave New World, I mean, step by step, precept upon precept, the strategy that the globalists want to execute is astronomically clear. When you look at it, it's like, okay, you can make no mistake that a global takeover has been the agenda of a particular people group. I'll call them elitist. They've been wanting to do this from the beginning of time. I mean, you can find documents, the Brave New World. This is written back in the 1920s. The information I'm speaking on. Back in the 1920s, you can find there were people who wanted to rule the world. If you actually pay attention, I'm going to speak to my Christian brothers and sisters. If you pay attention to the book of Revelation, the book of Revelation is warning of this type of global dominance. One man having power. Power being centralized. Nations that were once sovereign being brought to their knees in subservience to the great leader. But what happened today in Washington, D.C.? The Trump legal team dropped a bombshell. When I say they dropped the bombshell, what I'm saying to you is the information that they gave today totally destroys mainstream media and big tech's narrative that there is zero evidence of voter fraud during the 2020 election. And I'm going to play a couple of clips here. Actually, this is actually the full interview with Alex Jones doing some narration in the background. And I'm not starting at the very beginning because, those particulars that Mayor Giuliani gives, I don't think they're that important. But what is important is that if you don't understand by now that big media is in cahoots with big government, and I'm not talking about, I'm making no distinction per se from Democrat and Republican, but what I will say is that there is an evil presence on the left. The Democratic Party has been infiltrated. They've been infiltrated by communist, Marxist operatives and Chinese operatives. And I'm going to make a connection. I don't want to really go into detail now, but I have something left, something coming up later this week, Saturday. I want you to understand that China is the enemy of America. Venezuela is an enemy of America. Cuba is an enemy of America. Those three nations have one thing in common. And that one thing that they have in common is that they're communist. See, big media is not reporting on the business arrangements and agreements. Joe Biden right now is under investigation in Ukraine for having someone removed from an investigation, stopped an investigation of his son with a company called Burisma. You won't hear that on CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, or the Associated Press. You won't hear that in the New York Times, the New York Post. You won't hear any of that. Washington Post, I'm sorry. You won't hear it there. Because there is a distinct reason why these media outlets do not want you informed. It's because their agenda involves you being asleep at the wheel and driving drunk at the same time. And crashing into a race war. And crashing into this draconian lockdown, which is an absolute takeover of your constitutional rights in the name of a medical crisis. This is called medical tyranny. And the Constitution permits no such restriction of liberty for any type of emergency whatsoever. This is absolutely unconstitutional. But so many people have fallen into the hole of the race war, black against white. Well, people, I want to tell you something. My pit bull is in the background having a ball. I want to tell you something. I want to make sure you understand something, particularly my people, African Americans. If you believe for one instant that the color of a man's skin dictates the quality of his character, you are sadly mistaken. You are informed. You've been lied to, manipulated, and you are a part of the problem. You've bought into the narrative. And that's an absolute fact. But what happened today, this press conference, I'm going to play this clip here, and I want you to pay close attention because the mainstream media, I'm only trying to make this case here that you have been lying. If you're listening to CNN, if you're listening to MSNBC, ABC, all the C's, the A's, and the P's, you are being lied to. You are being manipulated. You are being sheep herded to the slaughter. And I just want you to know it. I just want you to take a few moments. Look at this. I'm going to do some narration. And I want you to listen to what Giuliani had to say.
Sounds eerily similar to what Joe Biden told us a few days before the election, that he had the best voter fraud team in the world. Well, they were good. I don't know that they were that good because they made significant mistakes, like all crooks do, and we caught them. One of them was pushing out Republican inspectors. Every state, almost every civilized country, Even Tanzania and places you wouldn't think of have rules about inspectors, particularly for mail-in ballots.
Okay. Now, I know you've been listening to the news and they've been telling us that all of this is a hoax. Well, as you continue to listen, you're going to find out that hundreds of poll watchers, poll workers, volunteers signed affidavits under oath that they were pushed out, unable to do their job and observe what the vote counters were doing. They were unable to do what the Constitution gives them the right to do. And I'm just so tired of people saying there's no evidence. There is. You may not want to accept it, but it is. These great patriots, these human beings, these people who were sworn to do the duty of walking in integrity when it comes to, carrying out a respectful, honest election, are not risking their lives, risking their freedom, lying on behalf of Donald Trump. And as you continue to listen, you will see.
And why, particularly for mail-in ballots? Because they can more easily be defrauded, and you can't check them.
All right, I want to give radio stations and TV stations
People
a chance
who have
to
never done
either
a
break
mail-in
away
ballot
or carry this, because we're going to go ahead and go commercial free during this press conference, but we'll still fire tones for radio stations to play their ads. But InfoWars Network is going commercial free right now. Back to Rudolph Giuliani.
And the precinct in which you're voting. You fill out your name and your address, and you sign it. You then use an inner envelope, and you put the ballot inside the inner envelope. You seal it all, and you send it in. When it's being counted, almost invariably in the United States, up until the mass cheating that went on in this election, a Republican and a Democrat inspector, as well as others, if there are other parties, is allowed to watch the unsealing of this ballot.
Allowed to watch during the unsealing of the ballot. And that was not allowed in key swing states. It's not allowed. But why? Why wasn't it allowed? Why would you not want an honest, fair election? Interesting question, isn't it? Keep listening.
Used to go on all over America when we conducted honest elections. Because the only time you can ever find out if it's a fraudulent ballot is when it is looked at. The minute you approve this, it's thrown away, gone for eternity. The only thing left is the vote. That could have been Mickey Mouse. That could have been a dead person. That could have been not filled out properly. That could have been the same person 30 times. That could have been, and all these things have happened, by the way. That could have been nothing filled out. We never know. So, for example, the recount being done in Georgia will tell us nothing, because these fraudulent ballots will just be counted again because they wouldn't supply the signatures to match.
Okay. No verification of signatures. Now, some people on this planet that we call Earth simply call the need to have a signature verified voter suppression. The need to have a government-issued ID when you go to vote is voter suppression. Now, particularly when it comes to African Americans, this is called voter suppression. So, in other words, any human being that has color, like me, we need somebody to say, oh no, they're the oppressed people. They don't need an identification card to come vote. And you know what that actually makes room for? That makes room for me, without a government issued ID, to vote over and over and over again. Hey, I could come in one time as Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck. How about Tom or even Jerry? I could be anybody. Continue listening.
The ballots. So it means nothing to have counted these ballots because, for example, in Pennsylvania, where we have probably our most precise evidence, 682,770 of these ballots were cast, put in, and they weren't inspected, which renders them ballots that are null and void, cannot be counted, have to be removed from the vote. Why? For several reasons, not the least of which is that was basically only one of two places in the state where it was done. So in the other parts of the state, there was a legitimate inspection of the ballots. So if you have two different standards in different parts of the state, one favoring one part of the state, the other disfavoring the other part of the state, that's a classic violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution. Bush v. Gore being the most recent case that teaches that.
Okay, so you can't have a double standard. One county can provide certain favors for voters. The other county cannot. Let me say it loud and clear. People, that's illegal. Continue listening.
That's not the only fraud that went on in Pennsylvania. All of the other frauds carried out in the other states by the Democrat bosses happened there as well. For example, if you made a mistake in that ballot and you lived in Philadelphia or in Pittsburgh, you were allowed to fix the mistake. But if you lived in what would be considered more Republican or Trump parts of the state, you were given no such right. One of our plaintiffs, Mr. Henry, cast a absentee ballot, and he failed to put it in the secure envelope inside. He just put it in open, naked. That ballot was cast aside because it was invalid, because that breaks the privacy of the vote. In Pittsburgh and in Philadelphia, if they noticed that there wasn't an inner envelope, they'd contact the voter and allow him to vote again. Or if he didn't fill it out completely, or if he made a mistake and didn't sign his full name, he was allowed to cure it. There is no such provision under the law of Pennsylvania. The Democrat Secretary of State made that up.
Wow. So they just decided to make up a rule to benefit them. Now, this is on record. This is not speculation, America. My brothers and sisters. This is not Rudy Giuliani making up lies. Oh my God. I'm not going to be able to get through this because I have a four-legged creature in my studio who will not stop lapping water. What are you doing? Come here. Come here. But anyway, there is absolutely no way to say that the man is not telling the truth because it's all documented. But CNN won't show it to you. They continue to lie. They continue to mislead the American people, especially black people, people of color. And I mean, what's so disgusting and despicable to me is that I remember on the second presidential debate, a question, I'm sorry, it was the first presidential debate. A specific question was asked to both candidates. Will you refrain from announcing a win on election night? Will you wait until all of the ballots are cast? And both of them said yes. And I'm telling you, Joe Biden, CNN, MSNBC, all of these Silicon Valley bought and paid for media outlets announced Joe Biden as the winner. have not backed down, and there is proof in the pudding. They're still counting the votes, and our president has not conceded. He is not the president-elect. And I don't care how many people that make millions of dollars on national television tell you that he is. It is a blatant lie. A blatant lie. And I'm shocked already, and I haven't even seen, the outcome of the recording of this video, even though I have a dog in the background making a ton of noise. I hope somebody listen to this. But I can just about imagine how many people of color won't take 20 minutes to go and research the facts. They'll simply sit back and listen to Charlamagne the God on the Breakfast Club every morning spewing out racial hatred, division, and lies. They may catch a glimpse of CNN, a clip here, a clip there, anything that's in agreement with the prescribed, socially accepted narrative of mainstream media. But I'm daring anybody. I'll put you to the test. Oh, Lord Jesus. I'm just making a mess of this recording. Just stay with me. Anybody who says, you know what, I want to know the truth, go and research. Look at the evidence. Go somewhere and read an article about voter fraud. There are over 300 affidavits signed by American citizens under oath, under the penalty of perjury, who are ready and eager to go to court and testify that there was voter fraud. We cannot continue to listen to these people lie to us and create this racial division in America. We cannot ever change what happened during slavery, that time. But what we can see is that the people of color in this country have opportunities to succeed and to be greater they so desire to be. And for someone to continue to say that it's not equally balanced, that the white man has his foot on the throat of the black man, that they're being suppressed at the voting polls, they're being suppressed in the educational institutions, they're being suppressed in the workforce, they're being suppressed when it comes to being able to own businesses and get grants and get loans. Listen, I know far too many successful people of color right in my own family. And I'm not saying the system's perfect, but can a human being on the planet today honestly say that they cannot accomplish their goals because the system is rigged and set up against them? It doesn't matter if you started in poverty. You don't have to remain in poverty. If you do remain in poverty, that was your choice. You chose. If you are uneducated and you remain uneducated, remaining uneducated was your choice. It wasn't the result of oppression. I'm not going to get any further into this video, but I challenge you all to go and watch, go and see, research what you see and hear, and draw the line there. Don't continue to listen to these outlets of media that have been paid for. They have been paid to manipulate you. There are studies right now involving the Ivy League schools, the most prestigious schools in America, who are studying ways to mentally manipulate this population to go under a second wave of lockdown, how to make it more successful, more draconian, and how to squeeze and crush this economy so we can come begging to the federal government for assistance so we can usher in a socialistic government. And my people won't even take the time to go see what it is that is being used as a weapon against them. As I said, this video shot. I just pray that you listen. I got people coming up the door upstairs, opening doors, trying to talk to the dog quiet, like this microphone won't pick up God farting, because it clearly will. But again, I challenge you to go and see for yourself. This is the Real Greg Kellick Show. I'm going to sign off. But my brothers and sisters, the Republic struck back today with a vengeance and with truth. I salute the patriots of this country. I salute every human being that's on the Stop the Caravan tour. Stop the Steal Caravan tour. I salute everybody that showed up in D.C. last week, Georgia this week, and those who are going to continue to march for freedom in this country. And I tell you why. Because I'm a proud American. I'm glad to be American. I'm glad to be a part of this Constitution and have the rights that are afforded to me no matter what my skin color is. And this is the real Greg Kelly Show. And listen, I'm going to post this on YouTube. I've been having issues with the streaming thing. I'm going to get that worked out again. Anybody that's already doing what I'm doing right now and you have any ideas, please share them with me because I need to know because I'm having some issues. But anyway, you can follow me on Facebook, Real Greg Kelly Show. You can follow me on YouTube, Real Greg Kelly Show, even though there's nothing there right now. But I challenge you to go listen to this press conference today. My people, you must hear the truth. It is time out for being deceived, lied, and led to the prisons, led to the slaughter, led to deception. I mean, it is time to wake up. God bless you. I love you. I love all of my Americans. All of you. And we will not stand for our republic being swallowed up by a global institution wants to bring us to our knees and have our economy shut down again. Joe Biden, I'm not going under your second lockdown. I'm not wearing that stupid mask. And for my brothers and sisters in Christ who are afraid to have a voice, to stand up and to go to church, I encourage you, go to church. Go worship your God. You have the right by God and by the Constitution to worship your God freely. Do not accept the oppression. I love you. Till we meet again. God bless these United States of America. God bless our president. God bless all of us, no matter our differences. I will be back with you Saturday. Let me see. My schedule is all over the place, but I will be back with you on Saturday. Until then, be blessed, be at peace, and stay together.